Day 75 of 365 days of meditative magic. And yeah, today's experience was comme ci, comme ça, as they say in French. It's about an hour long. I did it in the early evening. And it was just a seated practice. Put some music on to drown out any background noise and sat there with little to no expectation of anything occurring. And it still ended up being emotionally charged regardless. There was definitely some tears of various emotions pouring out of my face at one point or another. A few takeaways and thoughts from this particular practice itself. One, definitely one thing I was reminded of today was the mental diet. So sitting there with my eyes closed, doing nothing, no guidance in the meditation, just whatever comes to mind comes to mind. I was acutely aware of the useless shit I had absorbed into my mind earlier on in the day. And what I mean by that is like things I watched on social media or YouTube or, some crap that somebody texted me that I looked at or whatever. Just wasting mental bandwidth on trivial garbage. It's not even entertaining in the sense that it makes me feel good after. It's like junk entertainment that just makes you feel like crap about the world after looking at it. And so, yeah, I was aware of that. And give me half a sec here. I'm going to plug in my phone before it dies. Super professional, but I don't want to have to redo this video. All right, so yeah, just being aware of the mental diet and the crap I had been wasting my attention on, just the energy that goes into that, not only the time wasted on it, but like it's floating around in my subconscious for the rest of the day, bouncing around in there, and I'm aware of it because I'm meditating and sitting there quietly. I'm noticing what's floating around. And then, my brain, when I fall asleep, it's got to determine whether or not that fluff that I absorbed is useful and whether it should wire in my brain or sort of disregard it. So I'm wasting actual energy there, literally. Biological energy, neural energy. So that was one of the takeaways. And, I've acknowledged this before, but I guess today was a reminder. The other one was, again, I've noticed this before, but this sort of outrage came up about past experiences in my life, mostly around struggles with mental health as a child. And just, I guess when adverse experiences occur with a child and there's somebody else involved, there's somebody that's sort of responsible for that. But when it's mental health, it's hard not to kind of look around and see that you're the only one around, which means you're the only one that could possibly be responsible for this happening. But my anger isn't necessarily directed at myself, although in the past it has been, in its times it is. It's more like looking into the cosmos for something to blame, which is pointless. But then it was bringing up other questions like, who or what would make the world function in this way? Like, you could say it's contrast and you have to experience the bad in order to experience the good. And you could approach it from this philosophical perspective, or you could say from sort of a neurochemical perspective if you're looking at, dopamine or anything. There's sort of... you can hit certain levers in your brain and certain chemicals to be produced, but the sort of counter effect, the counter chemical has to be produced in some volume, or you have to experience the absence of that chemical for some period of time in order to it to have its same effect on your physiology or on your experience of it. But it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm trying to understand is, like, sure, all that might be true, but couldn't the system just have been designed different so that these this contrast didn't need to exist? Like, if you're building a concept of the world from scratch, why did we have to build in pain and suffering into it? Like, why is that necessary? It seems ridiculous to me, absurd, and I'm really irritated by it right now, actually. So, that question, and then from there, it's like, what is the point of this experience in general? Like, we come into this earth, we're living this life, and it's like what the hell? Why? And I don't know, no answer there, obviously. Well, not necessarily obviously, but yeah, no answer there. My wife, for Christmas, bought me the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, I believe. So maybe that'll have some answers for me. Maybe the timing was appropriate. Other than that, the only other thing that sort of popped up was noticing again, and I've noticed this before, but just being reminded that the sensations in my body that don't feel good, or the experiences I've had in my life that I've labeled as bad or whatever, it's really the judgment of it that creates all the suffering. You can get like punched in the face and it could hurt, but it's sort of labeling the event as bad, not that anyone wants to get punched in the face, and judging that event and dwelling on it is what creates that long-term suffering. Maybe getting punched in the face is not a great example. Probably everybody out there has not been punched in the face. But it doesn't matter what the experience is. It's the labeling of it, the judgment of the experience itself, or the emotional state, or the thought that really determines whether or not it's got any sort of lingering effect. Unless you're talking about physical injury, of course. There's a whole nother, thing there. I guess physical injury is real and it's tangible no matter what. But I guess, some people can sustain the exact same injury and have a very different outlook on it based on how they label the experience and, excuse me, the physical injury itself that remains. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, these were the ideas floating around in my head today. Excuse me. I'm not recording this again. You're getting the full cough effect and everything. And I don't know how to edit this out, so I'm not editing it out. But that's it. That was my thoughts for today. In closing, if you're struggling at all with your mental health and you can't look to the universe and have them explain to you why it existed, just as I can't, or at least at this point in my life I haven't been able to. But in all seriousness, if you are struggling with your mental health, feeling anxious or depressed, or God forbid suicidal, if you're worrying or ruminating or obsessing and it's negatively impacting your quality of life, if you're just unable to cope with your current mental emotional state, talk to somebody. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000,000,000 times more. Well, I probably haven't said it 1,000 times yet, but 75, so 100, quick math, 225, is that right? I've said it 225 times. If I say it 3 times, 75 episodes, 225 times. I've said, talk to somebody. Doing so, if nothing else, will help get it off your chest. And, I can't predict the future, but I'm willing to bet that you'll feel better afterwards. I know I did. I know I have every time I do. It's much easier for me to do it now than it was the first time I tried. It was nearly impossible. I put it off for years and years and years and years and years. And I wish I hadn't. And if you can't do it for yourself, then, hey, maybe think about it in these terms. If you step forward and talk to somebody about your mental health, you'll help, or your current negative experiences with your mental health, you will help remove the stigma, so maybe somebody else who's suffering will feel more comfortable to come forward and talk about it. Maybe that'll be a 12-year-old kid someday. And maybe it'll be your own kid someday. And also, I would say that if you see somebody struggling with their mental health, maybe, you don't want to pry, I guess, but start up a conversation with them, check in, see how they're doing, and you might be able to make an amazing difference in somebody else's life and set them on a path forward. And especially if you've struggled with your mental health before, you can let them know that, you've been there, they're not the only one, and that there's hope. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I asked some grand questions to the universe and I didn't get any answers. That was today's practice. The end.